Please, God.
This is God. Watch this.
Why couldn't she just wake up? What's going on, my creep freaks, horror heads, and hellions of horror? Welcome back to Father Lokk's Favs Horror Hall of Fame Fan Faves Choice Awards. As the horror genre began to grow, so did the number in movie monsters, killers, slashers, and nightmare creatures. Which brings me to my next on the read. A nightmare creature that not only hunts your nightmares, but his only purpose is to kill you in them. And if he does, he's the last thing you'll ever see. My next inductee is from Fan Faves Choice Awards, yours truly. Me, it's Father Lokk, thanks for choosing me, production. Inducting Wes Craven's 1984 ghoulish and terrifying hit, A Nightmare on Elm Street. Before I go into why I chose A Nightmare on Elm Street as my fifth inductee, please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, and hit your notification bell so when I upload new content, you will be notified first. I chose A Nightmare on Elm Street as my fifth inductee because the film is truly that, a nightmare that you cannot wake up from, and a film that sticks with you long after the film is over. And going into my fifth inductee, who better to land that spot than the Nightmare Man himself, Hell King Freddy Krueger. Thanks for choosing me, production, and thank you all again for tuning in and stick by, because now is the time for me to tell you my first experience with this ghoulish and terrifying hit we all know as A Nightmare on Elm Street. We made it, we're here at number 5, we made it, at number 5. What's going on, creep freaks, my horror heads and hellions of horror? Welcome back to Father Lokk's Faves Horror Hall of Fame Fan Fave Choice Awards. And before I get into this video, we get into it, I would like to say thank you to my production company and for those who chose me as the winner for the Fan Fave Choice Award. I am the 5th inductee choice, inducting A Nightmare on Elm Street as my 5th inductee. So thank you all so much for choosing me. I didn't think that the host can get chose, but hey, here we are.
And before I go in and continue on, let me just say this. Be sure to hit your subscribe button, pop that notification bell, and can you please do me the greatest favor of giving this video a thumbs up, for it truly helps me. I am an aspiring YouTuber and a rising channel, so every like helps me a lot. Now that I've put those announcements out and made those statements, let's hop on in to my experience with A Nightmare on Elm Street. Just like my second inductee, Halloween, I was shown, and my experience, I should say, with A Nightmare on Elm Street was at age 9. I will never forget this. I get in from school and I'm going in my room and I'm doing my homework, and I can hear my uncles, this is 1984, I can hear my uncles telling my mom about it, this and that, because they had seen it in the theaters. I had never ever heard of A Nightmare on Elm Street. First time I had ever heard of this. Never heard of this film. So he describing it, going in and that's another. So now my mom is interested in it, my grandmother is interested in it, and she asks him, you know, is it still in the theater or whatever have you? And he's like, no, it's on cable, it's on pay-per-view. So my grandmother orders it for the 7 o'clock evening showing on pay-per-view. So everybody's getting prepared, my uncles, my mom, my grandmother, my grandfather, me, you know what I'm saying? We all getting prepared, getting our popcorn, getting our, where we're going to be in the living room, you know, getting our spots, you know, getting everything prepared to watch this film. So now it's time for the film to start, and it gets on and it starts. And right off the bat, it's creepy. You start off in a boiler room with all these machines going and steam and hissing noises and machine noises, and you just see somebody creating something, they're welding something, the sharp objects, and then all of a sudden you make out what they're creating in this glove with knife tips on the fingertips like fingernails, and it goes on into the film, and then you find out that someone is having a nightmare. And she's running and she's trying to get away from him, and she's going through all these different twists and turns in this boiler room. And you hear this nightmare creature, whomever she's running from, because you don't see them yet, you hear them laughing and taunting her and this and the other. So I'm already getting scared. Like I said, I'm 9 years old and I'm already getting afraid of what's going on, because it started off already nightmarish and creepy and scary. So then you see a little bit of what's chasing her through some pipes, and he's burned and he's ugly and this and the other, and it's just, I'm into it, but I'm watching it, y'all, like this already. First start of the film. So she gets cornered, or like hides into like this spot, and behind her is like this boiler room type fireplace and fire spewing out of it, and it gets quiet, and she's looking around trying to figure out where he is and is he coming, and all of a sudden he just pops up from behind her, and I jumped. I waste all my popcorn. Do y'all hear me? I waste all my fucking popcorn. My mom and them started laughing, my grandma and them started laughing. I, on the other hand, did not find the shit funny, but they laughing at me or whatever. So they looking at me, and I know, in my imagination, as far as I believe what they were thinking, damn, the movie just started and already you hopping out of your skin. We don't even know what's gonna happen. And my uncle, he looking and he looked at me and he like, yeah. So I already know I'm in for it, because these motherfuckers, they known for horror, and they known to want it to scare you. They want the reaction out of you. So they're getting it. So it goes on, and then she wakes up, or whatever the case may be, and it starts on into the film where they're walking and they're talking, they're on their way to school, and you know, the girl Tina is explaining to Nancy, you know, I had a nightmare and it's just reoccurring and this and then the other, and she's telling her, well, we all have nightmares, you know, and sometimes when the weather changes, sometimes during certain periods, you know, everything start getting weird and stuff like that, and people start having nightmares, you know, it's just a crazy time period or whatever have you, so on and so forth. So they go to class or whatever, and so on and so forth, and then it takes you to them being at Tina's house. Because of the nightmare, she asks Nancy, her best friend, and Nancy's boyfriend, Glenn, would they spend the night with her. you know, because of this nightmare, she was afraid to be alone because her parents were out of town. She's the only child, and she was there at the house alone. So she decided, you know, to ask them to come over and spend the night with her. So they agree, and they come over, whatever have you, and so on. And she's explaining to Nancy, and she's like, what is with this nightmare? You know, she said, I just keep seeing this guy's weird face and those finger knives. And she's like, well, it's like something he made himself or whatever the case may be. And that's when Nancy tells Tina, you dreamed about the same guy I have. And Glenn hears this and he's like, that's impossible. But the look on Glenn's face clearly tells you that he's had the same dream. You know what I'm saying? He's seen the same guy in his dreams. So they go on, they hear this noise outside, they run outside, and so happens it's Tina's boyfriend, Rod. And he finds out that Nancy and Glenn are spending the night, so of course I'm staying too, you know what I'm saying? And he spends the night or whatever, and they all go in and get prepared for bed, and Nancy is downstairs sleeping. Well, Nancy's upstairs in a guest bedroom sleep. Glenn's downstairs on the couch, and of course Rod and Tina is in her mother's bedroom doing you know, you clearly hear them up there, you know. So they fall asleep or wherever the case may be. And then Tina goes into a nightmare. And something is throwing rocks at the window and it wakes her up. She thinks she's awake, but it's actually something woke her up in her nightmare. She's having a nightmare. And she gets up to see what it is. And something throws another rock and it breaks the window and it's calling her name. And she says, who do you think you are? Whoever you are. So it takes you to her coming out of the front door, and she's outside now and she's walking around and trying to see where and who this is, calling her name, where is it coming from, this and that and the other. And all of a sudden, you see this garbage can top come spinning, rolling, and it spins, and it comes from the direction of where this person in her nightmare is. And then you see him. And he got this brim on, this dirty red and green sweater. It's all torn. He's all burned and rotted looking and pussy and bloody. And I can just imagine that he smells horrible. And he's coming toward her. So I'm looking, I see him, and already I'm freaked out because he looks like the most nasty, disgusting thing ever that could be chasing you in your nightmare. And as a 9-year-old, that's not something I want chasing me in a dream. Chasing me, period, let alone in a dream. So he's coming toward her, and she's looking at him, and he takes his arms and as y'all can see, he stretched them all the way from one end of the alleyway to the other end of the alleyway. And he's walking, and he's scraping the knives up against the concrete of the wall, and they're scraping, they're making this noise, and this and that and the other. And she says, please God. And he says, this is God. Telling her pretty much that my claw knives is your God. That's going to be the fate of whether you live or die. Just like God determines whether you live or die, this is God. And he commits to chasing her, and she's running away from him, and she's trying to get away from him. And he ducks from behind a tree and slices his finger, and some nasty juice comes scoop. So I'm grossed out. He already disfigured and burned and pussy and looked rotted, and now you cutting yourself and disfiguring yourself, and nasty green gook is shooting out of the womb. It just was like, ew. And then he finished chasing her, and he gets a hold of her, and from the looks of it, they're like on top of garbage, and she's trying to get him off of her. And she grabs his face, and all the skin on his face comes off, and it's just nasty, pussy, slimy, gelled, nasty looking skeletal. It was just so gross. And she's tossing and turning, and now it shows you that she's under the cover, and she's tossing and turning, and her tossing and turning wakes up Rod. And he gets up, and he snatched the cover back, and she just turned, and then you see her blouse just open. Like an unseen thing opens her blouse, And right after that, you see 4 gashes just come clawing down her chest. And then she just goes up in the air, and it's unseen forces just twirling her around and smashing her into stuff. And I'm just like this the whole while. The whole while he's thrashing her and slamming her on the wall and dragging her up the wall, dragging her up the ceiling. And this girl is screaming for life. Just screaming, just screaming, just screaming. And Rod is screaming and this and that and so on, so have you and so on. There's just too much. And then all of a sudden, he just drops her, and when he drops her, she just opens up and the blood just splats all over the place. You talk about somebody who's just like, what the hell is going on? So then of course they get to them going down to the police station, you know, after the police is called and so on and so forth. And now they think Rod did it. And Nancy's trying to explain to the police, her mom's there, her dad's there, and her father's just going ballistic. Why would you there in the middle of the night shacking up with some teenagers alone by yourself? You know, and he looking at the mom like, you allowed this, like you didn't know she wasn't in the house, you know, and so on and so forth. And she's trying to explain that she don't think Rod did this. Like, they had boyfriend-girlfriend arguments just like any other couple, but their arguments weren't serious enough for him to take her life. That just wasn't the deal. That's just not the deal. So they go home or whatever, and of course being at home, trying to get over it, and constantly it's on her mind, Nancy decided, okay, I can't sit up here, I gotta go to school. So the next morning comes, she goes to school, and Rod sees her, and he grabs her and pulls her behind bushes, and she's like, did you do it? You know, he's trying to tell her, I never touched her, I didn't even see who did it, all I could see was stuff happening to her, but I couldn't see who was doing it. And she's like, well, how could it not be you? You two were the only somebody in the room, the door was locked from y'all side, and he was like, don't look at me like I'm some fucking fruitcake, I'm warning you, like he's gonna hurt her. Of course, her dad was around all along, because he knew eventually that he was going to contact one of them, somebody, one of the friends. And he used the whole opportunity of Nancy going to school to catch Rod, because he used Nancy to catch him. And she realized that, and she was pissed about it. She goes on to school, and in the middle of class, I guess from the whole ordeal with Tina being murdered and dealing with that, not getting any rest, I'm sure no one would get rest at some point of their best friend being murdered, you know what I'm saying? Where's sleep at that point? And she nods off in class. And all of a sudden you hear, Nancy, and she looks over and she could see her friend Tina in a body bag, standing there, scrolling down, blood. So she gets up and she goes out into the hallway, and you can see the body being dragged down the hallway, leaving a trail of blood by some unseen force. So she continues to follow it. So it goes on, and then it turns and goes down the hallway. So Nancy's chasing it, and she runs into what she think is another student, a hall monitor, out into the hall. And the girl's like, where's your pass? And Nancy tells her, screw your pass, and goes to continue to look for this body of Tina's in this body bag. And when she hears, hey, and she turns around, and the girl is actually Freddie, mimicking a student. And you see it slices down the girl's face, and you see bloody claws of the knife, running down the hallway. You know what I'm saying? So Nancy blowed it off. She clearly knows something ain't right. She follows the blood trail down the stairs into the school basement, which ends up turning into, of course, Freddie's boiler room, where he takes people and he kills the kids, and this is the place they normally dream about. So now she's constantly calling for Tina. She's getting scared because now this place is a familiar place. I always see this place in my nightmares. So now she's getting the idea, I'm dreaming, this is a nightmare, I know there's nothing good to come out of this. And all of a sudden she sees an image of a person, and they come walking out, and it's Freddie. And she asks him, who are you? And he slices his chest, and thick, pussy, green pus and maggots come pussing out of the wound. And then he goes to chasing Nancy, and I'm gonna get you. And he's taunting her, he's taking the knives and going across the pipes, and they're making that screech noise. That, oh my God, that noise used to irritate me. That's what used to scare me as a kid. That noise would scare the bejeebus. It's like scratching a chalkboard, and it irritates the nerves. And he gets up on her and come to Freddy, and she's getting mad. It's only a dream, and he's licking his tongue out at her, and she's getting mad, and she throws her arm up, and it hits a pipe, and it burns her arm in her nightmare, and it wakes her up, and she's flailing around, and she's still trying to come out the nightmare. She's screaming and this and then the other, so and so, what have you. And you talking about somebody's nerves is wrecked, but at this point, I'm not the only somebody whose nerves wrecked. My mom is silent, dad's silent, my grandma, my uncles, and everybody else silent with me, so I know they into it too. But I know they're into it because it's good to them, and they're adults, and the movie is good to them. Me, I'm into it because I'm terrified, and I can't turn away from it. Like I said in my first inducted my first film, The Exorcist, how you could look at it and it's terrifying you, but you couldn't turn away. The same thing here with A Nightmare on Elm Street. I cannot turn away at all from the screen, and this is terrifying the fuck out of me. So then it goes into, they finally get home. Nancy notices as she leaves the classroom, they told her to go home for the day. She takes the rest of the day from school, and the burn that happened to her in her dream, she noticed that burn was on her in real life. So now she's putting two and two together. What happens to me in my dream will happen in real life. So now it gets to her going to warn Rod about what's going on and so have you, so on and so forth, this and the other. And she asks Glenn to watch her, you know what I'm saying, and make sure if she's having a nightmare, because she's trying to go out and see if she, putting two and two together, she can go in her dream and see if she can find Freddy, because she feels she goes to sleep, more than likely he's going to enter her dream or whatever. And she goes to sleep, and Glenn is there. And in her dream, so happens she ends up at the police station, and she looks through the window and looks down at Rod in his cell and sees Freddy in his cell. And she's banging on him, Rod, wake up, so on and so forth, so forth. And he so happens to wake up, but she hears Tina's voice again, Nancy, and she turns around, and Tina looks like some form of bloodied nun with these pussy snakes and centipedes and worms and stuff all coming out of her. And all of Nancy now, she knows I'm asleep. He got to be somewhere around, because that's the only time I start seeing images like this, in my sleep. So Glenn is not responding, so obviously Glenn didn't fell asleep. So now she's left without any protection. No one's watching her. If she start having a nightmare, there's no one to awaken her. And now she's utterly sure Freddy is somewhere around. And Glenn, are you there? And you hear, I'm here. And he comes from behind the bush. She's walking, panning across, trying to see if she see anybody coming her way. And she takes off running. And when she takes off running, she gets toward her house, and she runs into the door, and she's trying to run upstairs to her bedroom. And of course, this being a nightmare, the stairs started to melt. And she's walking, and her feet are going directly down into the stairs. And oh my God, I'm just knowing he's finna kill her, because he's right at the door and he's coming in, and she can't even barely pull her foot out of this gunk of stairs that's melted, molded, whatever is going on. And finally she gets up to her room. She opens her door and looks in the corner where Glenn would be supposedly awake, but he's asleep. And now she turns, and she's, this is not real, this is just a dream, this is real. And she's looking toward the mirror, and she's trying to convince herself this is just a dream, it's not real. And through the mirror comes Freddy, bursting through the mirror, and he grabs her, and they're tussling, and he's trying to slice her. And he sliced one of her pillows. And he's trying to get her, whatever the case may be. And the alarm goes off. And she wakes up, And Glenn wakes up and she goes off on Glenn. You shit. I could have died. I told you to just stay awake and wake me up if I was going to have, if I appeared to be having a nightmare, so ever have you, so on and so forth. And she tells him to leave. And he leaves. And when he leaves, she's looking out the window and she noticed one of the feathers in her pillow floating past her. So now she knows for a fact what happens in my dream will come to the reality, because he sliced my pillows and all of my feathers went everywhere in my nightmare. There's no way that there should be any feathers floating around in my room, and I was in a dream, and now my feathers are out of my pillow. So now it hit her. Let me check Rod. So she goes back to get Glenn, and they go back to the police station, and she's begging them to allow her to go down there to check on them. And if they're not going to allow her to do it, can they please go? And they're stalling, and they're just being dicks about it. And then her dad walks up, and he's not having it, and he's being a dick about it. And she's begging the dad, just please, for me, just check one time. So he finally, okay, and he tells the other cop to, go down there and check. He don't know what he done with the keys. All while he's doing this, trying to find the keys, all you see down in Rod's cell is Rod sleep, and you see his sheet twirling and twining like a rope. And then all of a sudden you see it going around his neck as if it's trying to go around his neck like a noose. And he wakes up in the middle of it happening and grabs, and it's too late. Freddy started choking him and started hanging him. And she studied up there and she's begging him. And I really believe had they not been a dick about it, they probably could have saved him, because they right there and it's happening and she pleads. Finally they get down there and it's too late. As soon as they walk in, the deal was done. He had been hung, he's dead, this and the other. And of course, they don't know about Freddy and what's going on with the kids. So they assumed he killed himself, because they believed he killed Tina. So I guess they figuring him out of the guilt of killing Tina, he killed himself, whatever have you, so on and so forth. So now Rod's dead, and Nancy is pretty much trying to figure out what to do. She's reading this book about dreams, this and the other, and what to do about nightmare creatures. And her and Glenn are on this bridge and they're having a discussion about it. And he tells her the best way to defeat your creature is to face it and take the energy away. You take back the energy you fed into it. You strip it of its power, or whatever the case may be. And so she's wondering why he's saying that to her. So she goes home, and her and Glenn, before she went to bed, she decided to call Glenn. And they talking or whatever case and having a conversation. And then they hang up. And the phone rings again. And when she picks up the phone, she hears Freddy's claws going across a pipe, making that screeching sound on the other end of the line. So she slams the phone down, she rips it all out of the socket, so on and so forth. And she's, oh my God, why did I do that? What if, Glenn calls or whatever have you? Don't matter. She gets ready to leave out of her room, and to her surprise, the torn up, drawn to phone snatched at the jack, phone cord broke and everything. The phone starts ringing. So now she getting terrified because, okay, why is this phone ringing? I just snatched it out of the jack, the cord is destroyed, there is no way this phone can ring even if I wanted it to. She answers the phone, hello, and you hear Freddy say, I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy. And when they show you the phone, the bottom half of the receiver is the bottom half of Freddy's face. And the phone opens up like his mouth and licks all around Nancy's lips as if he's trying to tongue kiss her through the phone. I was so disgusted by that. I'm like, oh my God, that looked so disgusting to me. That whole visual, like, yuck. This mug is really, really a nightmare creature. Like, he really licked her lips through the telephone. Like, so as a kid, you thinking you can't get away from him no matter what you do. You can't get away from him. So she thinking to herself, boyfriend. So now she know he's hitting toward Glenn. So she runs downstairs because she's trying to get over to Glenn to keep him from falling asleep and this and that. And the bars are on the doors, bars on the windows because her mother had them put on there. Because they think, of course, Nancy is psycho. So they're trying to keep her locked away. And she, give me the keys, mother. It's all locked, Nancy. You're going to get some sleep if he kills me. I can't even give you the keys because they're not even on me. All while she's doing this and arguing with Nancy about the keys, Glenn is at home and he's laying on his bed. He was watching TV and listening to music, and so happened to fall asleep with the TV sitting on top of him with his headphones on. All of a sudden, you see Freddy's hand come up through his bed with the claws and grab Glenn and pull him all the way down into the bed. So now I'm freaking out, like really like freaking out. I'm shaking at this point. And when he pulls him all the way into that bed, and then you hear this bubbling sound, and then all of a sudden you see grinded up like liquefied human of Glenn comes hurling back out of the bed, all everywhere like some volcano that erupted, nothing but pieces of human flesh and blood. I mean, he was a smoothie, a human smoothie is what he was, coming spewing out this bed. I was so sick to my stomach because it looked so real to me, and just seeing all that. And then his mom runs upstairs and opens the door and see her child and just a bucket, need a bucket, just water all over the place, and she's screaming and this and that and the other, and so on and so forth and have you. And Nancy's just done. Now you killed my boyfriend, you done killed my best friend, you killed her boyfriend, I've had it with this. And she plans on catching Freddy, and she rigs up a booby trap, get it all rigged up, ready, so on and so forth and have you. And then she times herself, she takes some pills, she falls asleep, and she go looking for Freddy. And she goes searching for every place she known him to be. She goes to the boiler room, this and the other, all this and the other. She finally gets him, with hope that she can bring him out of the nightmare into reality. And she counteracts him, and they go in there, and so on and so forth, and she grabs him, and the alarm goes off, and she wakes up, and she got the gate. So she, damn. So I'm really crazy. Really think that I could bring something out of my dream. I'm really going crazy. But what happened is, she actually did bring Freddy out of her nightmare. And he hops up out of the bed, and this and that and the other, and she runs out the room, and she starts setting the booby trap. And she runs to the door, and she's, Dad, come help me. He's here, I got him trapped. Don't let him kill me too. You know, this and that. She's just yelling for her dad and telling all the police to go get him, and this and that and the other, so forth. And Freddy breaks out of the room, and a big sledgehammer comes and slams him into his stomach. And slams into his chest. He mad as hell. He chasing her around the living room couch. I'm gonna kill you slow. I'm gonna split you in two. And he just keep on running into her traps and this and that and the other. So they ended up down into the basement. Truly, I'm thinking in my mind, that's where she wanted him to go. Because she picks up this glass bottle full of gas. And she hurls it on Freddy. And it breaks. And all the gas wastes on him. And she takes the match. And she flames it on him. Torches him clear on up. And now Freddy is flailing and he's on fire. And he's trying to put himself out, doing the stop, drop, and roll. And I'm like, that's not going to work for you, bitch. And Nancy runs up the basement stairs, and he comes running up behind her, and she takes the basement door and knocks him back down the stairs. By this time, her father comes in and a couple of his police buddies, and they come to the basement door and they open the door, and there's flames coming all out, and they're trying to see who this is. She says she got trapped, but they don't see anybody. and they notice these footsteps coming up from the basement, a flame leading upstairs, going up the stairs up to where the bedrooms are. So they rush up there and they go to chase the footprints, and they get to the room, and it's Nancy's mom's room, and they open the door, and Freddy's on top of her mom, and he's on fire. He's caught her mom on fire, and the dad rushes over to put them out, and Nancy tells him, be careful, you know, Freddy's under there, whatever. And when they pull the cover back, the most nightmarish visual you could think to ever see your mom as. Her mom all crispy, burnt, cooked, skeletal, and she's sinking into the bed into this hellish abyss of lightning and fog, and she's waving goodbye. It's just not a pretty sight. And Nancy asks her father, do you believe me now? And he hugs her, and she tells him, you know, I'm all right, you go wait downstairs. Because now she's coming to terms with, this is just all a dream. This is not real. None of my friends are dead. My mom's not dead. This is just a dream. This is just a nightmare. And the father leaves, and then the door slams by itself. She knows it's ready. She turns her back. And when she turns her back, he comes up through the bed, and when he starts coming up and ascending through that bed, I'm just like, and I went descending down into my palate, like, oh my God, why won't he just die already? And claws his way out. He thought you was gonna get away. And she tells him, it's too late. I know the secret. This isn't real. You're not alive. My parents aren't dead. None of this is real. I want my mother and my friends back. And he's appalled, like, you what? I take back every bit of energy I ever put into you. You're nothing. You're shit. Basically. And she turns her back, and he gets ready to claw at her. And he just disintegrates. At this point, pre-freaks, horror heads, Hellions, horror. I don't know if I was holding my breath or what the case may be, but I instantly was like, you know, like, oh my God, he's finally dead. It's over. At least that's what I thought. She opens her bedroom door, and she ends up on the outside of their house in the front. And it's all bright and serene and all dreamy looking, and it's bright. And her mom comes out, and she's all beautified and clean, and she got on all white, and you know, and she tells Nancy, you know, it's a beautiful day, it's gonna burn off or it wouldn't be so bright. And she tell her, you know, I think I'm gonna stop drinking, you know, I just don't feel like it anymore. And she asks Nancy, did I keep you awake because you look kind of peaked? And Nancy, no, maybe I just slept better. You know, and she goes running to the car with all her friends in the car, this and that. You know, her mom is just all happily waving goodbye. And then the hood of the car, because it's a drop side, came flailing down over them. And they thought Glenn did it or whatever the case. And he's looking around like, okay, what happened? And then the windows start rolling up by themselves. So now Nancy freaking out because now she knows something else is going on. Mother, she's yelling out for mom. She just smiles. This is nice and sweet. As the car drives off, then you notice the car has the red and green stripes on it, just like Freddy's sweater that he wears. And then you hear these creepy little, which was a great touch to add to the film, you all, because those little girls jumping rope singing the 1-2 Freddy coming for you, that used to creep. Oh. You talking about creep your boy out. I used to hate that song. As an adult, I'm okay. Growing up as a child, that once I hate it, and then they just jumping, and they just look like they the most innocent kids in the world. And then all of a sudden, you see Freddy bust through that door window, that little window, with his hand and grabs Nancy's mom and pulls her through that little bitty window. And the kids keep on singing the song, their face black. You talking about almost start crying. I was so scared because right after that, it's time for me to go get in the tub. And then right after that, it's time for bed. I'm 9. The movie goes off at 9 o'clock. It's my bedtime. The only thing I can do is go take my bath and go to bed. And I was like, all right, it's time to go to bed. It's time to get in these baths done and go to bed. I'm gonna take a bath. Bitch, I'm not finna take no bath. Did you just not see? And the only reason why I didn't do that scene, you all, for, of course, to not get a strike for showing body parts and this and that. Y'all know I'm talking about that tub scene. Nancy in that tub, and he come through that tub, and he drag her in there through the drain, or whatever the case may be. And you talking about take a bath? No, I wasn't finna take a bath. I take a wash her, whole bath. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and it's done. Tub? No. I was not trying to take a bath. And then to go to bed, I was so scared to go to sleep. I just knew I was gonna have a nightmare about him. I just knew it. I knew it. They say when you go to sleep with the last thing that was on your mind, it normally invokes your dreams. And I just knew this was going to invoke a nightmare because that was the last thing I seen. It wasn't okay, now you can watch a cartoon and get it off your mind. No, it was go to bed. Thanks, Mom. Thank you so much. Like, for real. Like, but that was your boy's experience with this horrible, terrifying hit that we know as Nightmare on Elm Street, Wes Craven, legendary Wes Craven creation. Thank you so much, you all, for tuning in. I appreciate it so much. Production, thank you for choosing me as the Fan Fave Choice Award winner for inducting Nightmare on Elm Street. I was finna say American Werewolf in London. Nah, I ain't gonna even get into it. I ain't even do it. Thanks again, you all, for tuning in with me while I induct my 5th. This the 5th, y'all. Number 5. We getting up this ladder pretty soon. We're gonna be at number 10, you all. And we're gonna be done because it's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and we're done. But until then, you all, until we're back here again when I'm inducting my 6th inductee, I don't know if it'll be me or will it be a subscriber, but whoever the Fan Fave Choice Award winner be, I hope they induct a film that we all will love, and the film is exactly what is needed for this Fan Fave, personal Fan Fave, Horror Hall of Fame from your boy Father Lokk. You all continue to do your social distancing, wear your mask, keep yourself protected, keep your children protected. COVID hasn't went anywhere yet, and it's getting a lot worse, and it's going to get hella worse before it gets any better. And until we all are here again, right here, as I'm sitting here and you're sitting in front of me, be sure to keep it creepy, my creep freaks, my horror heads, and hell into horror, and I will see you all when we induct in the next film. All right, I love y'all. Bye, babies. Y'all know I just can't end the video. I just gotta do some crazy ass shit, right? Just end the video, right? Just end. Okay, I'm ending the video right now.